Hello, welcome back. This is episode number 2, the weekly podcast of the Serpent and Dove platform. My name is Aiden Kanezi. I'll be your host today, and we've got another good show lined up today. And last episode I was going over it. If anybody noticed, I did refer to myself as something. I called myself a philosophist. I just wanted to address, if anybody knows what a philosophist is, let me bring it up here. I actually searched up the definition after I realized what I just said, so let me show. If we go here, a philosophist is a pretender in philosophy, but you see I didn't actually intend this, but somehow my mind seems to mix words up and change the suffix or the prefix of the words and so on and so forth. But just to clarify, if anybody did pick that up or notice, well, fair enough. But I just wanted to address that. So with that out of the way, let's take a look at our slides again. Okay, so this show, we will be going over consciousness again. As we all might understand, consciousness itself is quite the endeavor. The experience of life is quite the quite the journey and endeavor in learning and discovery. So once again, we'll be going over consciousness, some more general ideas and concepts. Last episode we did go over animism, and I sort of make the correlation and correspondence that just as animals are extensions to our consciousness, so too is natural law and the things that bind us to this physicality. And we'll be going over some additions, some extensions on those notions. So this here, known as the Holy Trinity, well, one of them at least, there are many, also known as the triad of consciousness. There's many names for it, many variations, but here, as you can see, the mind, body, and emotion complex, the three components here that make up the basis of consciousness, essentially. So we'll be touching on some of these concepts, some of these building blocks and let's say modes of gauging reality and engaging with reality. So let's get on into it. It seems very basic, but like I said, this is the groundwork, and it is prerequisite knowledge. Some generalized concepts and ideas intended to be part of the groundwork to be laid out in regards to, prerequisite knowledge and the continuity of the show with all of its constituent parts. So, laying down the foundation. Let's start with the mind. As some might know and understand, that is also quite the endeavor, quite the exploration, the human mind that is set apart from our our animal fellow species. Our mind is definitely set apart, consecrated in a sense, definitely in comparison to the animals or the rivers, the planets, all of the other aspects of reality and physicality. And as we expressed with animism, that those are also expressions of consciousness. You know, what might be inanimate as rocks and mountains, although to the adept, these are also spirits and beings with consciousness and a mind and a will and an intent. So we will be diving deep into these understandings and these perspectives here. So starting with the mind, where thoughts are inoculated, ideas and perceptions, where worldview is developed, the mind, especially in terms of psychology, and like I mentioned, the first 6 years of life, where the mind seems to develop most, and the progressions, the aspects that are woven into each other that equate to what would be objectively known as a proper human being. Now, there is such a thing to not be human, and that is to be not moral. That is to be not righteousness in our own right. So, understanding that there are requirements to even say you're a human, and there are conditions, and let's say the human condition as we know it, if we are being honest with ourselves, it does not naturally create the conditions that we need, that we want, or that we would like, that we desire. And like I mentioned, human nature is not neither good or bad, but what we make of it, like I said, the programming in the first 6 years of childhood. And that's why it's such a big detriment in terms of childhood trauma. That's why there is a targeted area in that regard. So, understanding all of this, human nature and the mind and all of its delicacies, its intricacies, and the capacities, we will be understanding, we will be overstanding, of course, overstanding that words play a big part in how we use them, and whether or not we really understand what we are saying. It is the words and essentially the dynamicacy of these forces that the words seem to reflect and personify, or seem to correspond to. And we will be understanding, we will be definitely considering words and how they are used against us, especially in terms of mind control and mental influence, with the amount of stimulation that the populace is buffeted with on a daily basis when it comes to these radios and media, the television, the movies, to one who is not resilient to such art, such sorcery of ancient psychology. If you are not resilient and privy to that, you are most definitely prone and susceptible to these tactics and these covert encodings, if we will, these covert programmings that, if we are truly thinking and aligning our perspective and perception in alignment with true objective reality and that which is, then we would come to understand that when we say anything is possible, then we will consider that such things, such a reality is and has taken place and is in the works. And it is not only our actions that define our character, but our reaction and what we will do to stand up to what is being done and said in today's circumstance. So, the mind. It all starts with the mind. Our perception, the inner world, subjectivity, and how much we would like to align our subjective and personal and egocentric experience with true objective reality, and that which is, which would be objectivity, the difference between subjectivity and objectivity. Also, the difference between the inner world and the outer world, which we will explore. So, the body, actions, efforts, works, the body and its health. How healthy, how much capacity does our body have to carry out the procedural workings of the mind and its capacities and intermediate correspondences. What's the medium between these two, and how they are crucial to each other, how they are interdependent, intrinsically connected in that sense. And once we add emotions, it is this triangulation to the basis of consciousness. So all these things must be in alignment. Our health of the body and health of the mind. It may be asserted that the mind will impact the body and the body will impact the mind. So if our thoughts are not the best, our ideas are not good and serving to natural law, to that which is good for one and all for one, then it is going to impact the body. It will result in inconsistencies, health problems. So, along with the emotions, so these things, they work together, and it is our moral obligation to know and understand these things, because in the end, what is good for one is good for all, and what is bad for one is bad for all. So we are, in the end, we're still in the same boat. Some people in this world might deserve what is taking place today, but not everybody deserves it, although we are in the same boat nonetheless. And that is the dynamicacy of it. Although that is the way it is. So if it's bad for one, it's bad for all. If it's bad for me, it is bad for you. So we got to start thinking along these lines and being wakeful. So, the mind, body, and emotions. With our emotions, how we feel, also correspondent to the subconscious mind, considering that in terms of sales, marketing, they understand that every decision is driven subconsciously or driven emotionally. There is some emotional drive to what people want to buy, what they want to purchase, and the way their mind works in regards to that. So, the emotions in the mind could also be seen as active and passive in a sense. The emotions being passive also in the sense that we are empathetic. We have a limbic system, a vagus nerve system, which encompass emotions and how we receive and transmit emotions one to another. So these things, it still has to do with the body, it still has to do with the mind, it still has to do with the emotions. So they work together in a sense, and they take this path, this flow, whether or not we understand it. That's the way it works. And if we do understand it, it is we understand other things. Know thyself, and you will know the universe. Know thy enemy, and know thyself, and you will win the war. Understanding that this is a spiritual battle, a spiritual war. Understanding that all is within. Understanding that we are our greatest enemy, and the kingdom is within, and that we are the judge and the jury and the witness. And that if a house is to be crashed down, it will be rebuilt. And that is also the nature of this reality, that energy cannot be created nor destroyed, but transformed. And that is the permanence of this physical reality, and that is the only permanent understanding, that everything is in constant movement, motion, and transformation. So, no ego attachment, no ego identification is going to keep us afloat and have us standing on our own 2 feet. So we do have to let go, in a sense, let go of preconceived notions. Of course, we cannot fill a cup that is already full. A vessel also that cannot hold any water is of no use. Understanding that water is the spirit, symbolically, in biblical terms. And I think that would be all for the mind, body, and emotions for now. let's see what we have for the next slide here. So we've looked at the mind, body, and emotions. This is very similar here. Like I said, there are many variations. Here is thoughts, emotions, and actions. The basis of consciousness engaging your reality. Like I said, it's the whole Holy Trinity. These faculties and their relationship and harmony with each other define and govern the extent of balance and wellness within our self, that is the inner world, and our reality, that would be the outer world. And like I said, if you have been following along, the only authority that we have is over ourself, our own thoughts, emotions, and actions. That's why there is that inner dominion, and that is where we have true sovereignty. And when we have people of today taking our rights, taking our freedoms, and like I said, it is our reaction that defines our character. It is our reaction to what has taken place that will define our character and the outcome of our freedom and our rights. That will dictate what the future will look like for us. Understanding cause and effect. No matter the gap of time between the cause and the effect, that is of the matter here. That these people moving all the chess pieces in this figurative game that we're playing, like I say, it's a spiritual law, right? So in terms of cause and effect, there is a huge time gap. It's a slow moving energy. It's a slow movement. But over the course of the ages and the centuries, it has been surely achieving, slowly but surely, achieving its goals and agenda, this plan of the demiurge, so to speak. And yes, it's a huge game, and there are master ancient psychologists. I mean, that is to say that they are practitioners of ancient psychology, completely indifferent to what is taught in the institutions of modern times. Is completely indifferent to that, and that is for a reason. Understanding the word occult. So we are in this big game of chess. The moves are slow. You're not noticing them. You know, maybe you are. This is not a blanket statement here, but generally speaking, we as a society are not noticing the moves being played on us. And like I said, you know, understanding cause and effect, natural law, is where we begin. Knowing, starting with the mind. And these people on the other end, they also understand these dynamics of the universe. They're playing by the rules too. And we are in this position because we have brought this upon ourselves, and we are the web work, essentially holding this system up. You know, the whole idea of order followers being more morally culpable for following orders, although it is the higher up giving the orders, they're getting the lower lower order followers to do their bidding in evil work. There is a hierarchy and priority of moral culpability in that sense. And below the order followers, all who sit back and allow tyranny to take place, are also morally culpable. And that is a general statement there, not a blanket statement. Not that we are all morally culpable, like I said. Some deserve it, but some don't, although we are all in this reality together. And that is we made this agreement. Everybody, all of these are agreements. We did not enter this reality without an agreement and understanding of the way things were predominantly and primordially. See, we knew this. That is the idea of the subconscious mind, or the higher mind that knows and understands. That's why we have things like deja vu. That's why we have the collective memory, the Akashic records, the concept like these that intertwine and work with each other and are coherent. But we will be getting into an understanding of all of this slowly but surely as we sharpen the mind and we operate from the heart. Now, the Holy Trinity. The golden rule: don't do unto others that which you don't want done unto yourself. All of this encompassing integrity and morality. Integrity to words, morality to natural law, adherence to truth. The subject in harmony with the objectivity. So, being at one, that is to atone, understanding words and how they play in with each other, the dynamicacy of that, through unity of the three faculties of consciousness, that is the thoughts, emotions, and actions. See, this is very important. Our integrity to ourself, not being in contradiction, but going through with our words. And that is to say that if we wish for true freedom to happen on the individual level, we will speak it and first imagine it. Have that imaginative capacity, also entailing the definition of magic on a deeper level when it comes to words and the mind and intention and will, and the imaginative capacity of the mind in terms of left brain and right brain. So, that is what this is all about here. On starting with the individual, one mind at a time, we can get through this, reach that magic number of 51% and get the ball rolling, get the momentum going. That's what we need. That's what the people want to see. But we got to get out of the groupthink and the hive mind, thinking that anybody is going to do it for us, or thinking that there is some completely overly mysticized notion that there is going to be some over figure of or a class of beings that is going to come to save us, in terms of New Age and that movement and their notions. It's going to be ourself and ourself alone. We need to do the real work. We need to do the work for ourselves and create the the utopia that we wish to see that is entirely possible, starting with the individual having true care and true courage, speaking up about these things regardless of what might happen or who might think of you, or what you're risking, what you're trading off. This is agape, true love for truth. That is what we came here to do. So let's take a look at the next slide here. Now, the left brain and the right brain. How the mind works, like I said, imagination with the right brain capacity, the left brain, which entails logic, reason, masculinity, etc. These two hemispheres must come together in unison, in harmony. And when we are completely bought into the imbalance of trends of the populace in regards to religion, which would be right brain imbalance, like they say, imagining the father figure in the sky with his beard and Jesus Christ, who actually is coming to save us, or that his atonement is sufficient. It's erroneous, and it's right brain imbalance, and completely opposite to that movement on the left side, the opposite side, which is scientism. Not true science, but scientism, which would be to think that there is an aspect of randomness, especially in terms of the creation or the origination, the origins of the universe, which in terms of the Big Bang, which they say happened randomly in terms of time and space as they would understand it. But I think it is definitely much more complex than that. So on the left brain side, with scientism and their imbalance on the left brain, these two hemispheres must come together, and we must have intuitive knowledge, heart-based knowledge, intuitive reasoning, holistic logic, if we will. And there must be balance in that sense. No dichotomy, no dialectics, and no dualistic constructs. We must always be singular. The individual, like I said, the etymology of the word individual. Truth is singular, and that's what we are adherent to here on this show. So, that is the left brain and right brain. There's definitely a whole lot more to it when it comes to this concept here and this aspect of the human anatomy and the human brain. We will definitely be diving in more when it comes to these two hemispheres and the way they operate and their dynamics. And I will also add that the school system, the education system, scientism, the institutions of colleges and universities and leading corporations that seem to lead science but is actually more decades behind believe it or not, they are decades behind. So these constructs all equate to left brain imbalance, which in turn leads to damage of the neocortex, the higher brain. We mentioned the reptilian brain, I believe, the limbic system, which encompass emotions, the brain stem, part of the reptilian brain connected to the spinal cord, and the neocortex, which is the part of the brain that you sort of see here. The whole thing becomes damaged if the left brain is extremely imbalanced. And there is a true science to this, and that is the intricacies and dynamics of these two here. And this is all by design. Like I said, we've got to be the true media. We can't buy into mainstream media and public trends, which, it's sort of, the public is sort of getting on track, but it's I don't want to diminish anything, but we're out, to say the least. We're not there yet. I will say that much. That's why we're here. That's why there is this show. That's why I'm doing this work here, considered the great work. I used to spend a considerable amount of time doing other things, doing my will, lowercase w, which would be doing rudimentary things, chilling, as they would say. There is not everybody would have the understanding that there is a level of priority and hierarchy of obligation and duty and deeds. I'd love to get into the pleasantries of life and what it could potentially offer, but there is work that needs to be done. And if I just happen to achieve that work in this lifetime, then I'm content with that. But for now, to say the least, I've given up a lot just to do this work here, just to be able to have the time and put in the effort to learn the skills that I have now. It's not easy to try to attempt to code a website on your own, or come up with the artistic graphics and the layouts, the audio, and how it all comes together. Not that it is entirely back-breaking, but what I'm trying to say is that it did take a lot of sacrifice, but that's what it takes, and there is a payoff. In the end, we do achieve our soul desire, and let's say we do want to do less, let's say, less important matters. Like I said, there's an elephant in the room, and we gotta do the great work. Not that the minor work is not important, but there is the great work to be done. So I do have my, well, let me get into the next slide here. Okay, something is, I'm just having a little bit of, I'm not sure why it's not working. Okay, I think I gotta do something here. I'm just having some technical difficulties. The software not operating as it should, so bear with me here. We are live and some things do happen where we just have no control. Okay, I believe, I don't know what I did here, but I've got F1 and F2 as my function keys, but no response. Okay, I do apologize. And if I'll just review this. Oh, wait. Okay, I figured it out. was actually more simple than I realized. Anyways, here I have an illustration of the double slit experiment, and that was to experiment the behavior of electrons, and they shot them through those two slits, and that's the pattern that emerged. And the outcome was that, you know, if you can wrap your mind around it, it pretty much states that reality is not as we think, and the potential for all realities existing is just that, exist, all the potential for all possibilities sort of, they don't exist as we might think in terms of linear perception or mainstream science. So it's just, if you can wrap your mind around it, it's definitely mind-boggling. And to me, it only confirms my opinion and thoughts and alignments of perceptions in regards to magic and manifestation and the way this multiverse operates, especially in terms of the holographic universe. I know there's a recent publication of the CIA and their documentation of the holographic universe, which sort of explains just that in greater detail. But if you truly if you had understanding of the occult and all of the mystery traditions, you would definitely have come to that conclusion independent of any high level scientific research in that regard of the CIA, so to speak. So again, this is laying the groundwork down, laying down the groundwork. And this here, this iteration, the mind and its influence on reality. Now these electrons are behaving the way they are because there is an observer. You see, somebody's observing their behavior, and they understood that it was somewhat of an act or entertainment, if we will. And they were clearly trying to hide their true nature. with cunning efforts. And in the quantum mechanics, the quantum sciences field, they understood that these small particles and electrons don't seem to adhere, they don't seem to have any adherence to the principles and laws that we as humans are adherent to and are bound by in terms of natural law, thermodynamics, the laws of momentum and such, gravity, these laws, that is also, I might add, that natural law is very synonymous or analogous to the degree that if you were to walk off a cliff or a ledge by way of gravity, the principle of gravity and its dynamics and pull on physicality, you will fall down. And it does not matter who you are, it does not matter your subjective perception, and it does not matter whether or not you believe in the idea or the principle and law of gravity, you will fall. And natural law works and operates just the same. It is very synonymous or analogous to that, and equivalent, very similar. So with that being said, and with that understanding, we can move along, and we have proper prerequisite knowledge. You see, if I truly wanted to speak what is on my mind, it would, well, more often than not, it would go over the heads of people, but I wish to speak to the heart. That is my true intent. And that is encompassing the idiom that the fool will speak his whole mind. Only the fool speaks his whole mind. And, depending on the capitalization, I will add on to that on a deeper level, that depending on whether the fool is capitalized in terms of the tarot, and depending on whether or not it is his whole mind, which would be the entire universe, if we truly understood who we are, what the mind is, and who we are on the deepest level, we would understand we are the universe. So, the fool will speak his whole mind. If you can wrap your mind around the paradox, the paradoxy and enigma of what I am saying there, that is also sort of the concept of the serpent, which I incorporate into my logo there, and the name serpent and dove. That is because the serpent will always come back around. In terms of duality, since we do live in duality, the serpent travels back and forth like that. Because we live in duality, the straight path for the serpent is the sine wave. If you want to look at it horizontally, the sine wave is just that. That is vibration. That is true polarity. Not duality, but polarity. And that is rhythm. That is the in-breath and out-breath of all that is. That is why I use the serpent, and that is what I see in the serpent. And that is the deep esoteric symbology. So, moving on. The groundwork, the foundation that we are laying down. Here I have an illustration of the 9 worlds. I've spoke a little bit about that in my videos, and I'm compelled to include this in the presentation here because of the deep esoteric understanding of it, and how, like I said, the quantum world kind of loops into each other with possibilities kind of like this. That's not exactly the 9 worlds, and the asatru that you see here, that's what it's called, the asatru, but that's sort of the way I see it. If you can wrap your mind around that, we will definitely be doing a deeper exploration of what you see here. This idea of the 9 worlds of Norse mythology, and each world corresponds to a specific part of physicality. And to show you in another illustration here, this is also the 9 worlds, the 8 directions. That is the 4 cardinal directions and the 4 diagonal directions. The 9 worlds correspond to these directions in various ways, very intricate ways. So with that understanding, it'll definitely play a big subconscious role in our understanding. Like I say, this is the groundwork, and it is prerequisite. I tell you, my understanding of it, but it is, we are to weave our own web, in the web of weird, as they say in Norse tradition, in the shamanistic movements, in the shamanistic perspectives. So that is the Norse, that's the thunder wheel right here that you see. This here is the asatru, the 9 worlds, the thunder wheel, and we see here the 8 directions that correspond to all the 8 directions, and the 9th world, which is in the center here, the dot. They say dimensions start with a dot, then a line, then a cube, and so on. And this is symbolic of that. So the middle that you see there, that the 8 are all intersected into, is Midgard. That is Earth. Sorry. That is the universe. The universe, and the 8 directions are the multiverse. And that is my understanding of this symbol here. It is the thunder wheel. It is, sort of like the wagon wheel. Very symbolic. And it's very crucial to understanding how we will gauge our reality with the mind. Understanding how the mind and the body come together. The body could also be correlated to the universe. And the mind could be correlated to the multiverse. In a sense, on a deep level. So moving on to the next slide here. Actually, I've got a little note here regarding the 8 worlds and consciousness, and that is Earth. Like I said, the body is synonymous to the universe and physicality and Earth. So when we say Earth, it is also not just the planet Earth, but also the state of being in terms of elemental consciousness. And the element of Earth, not the planet, but the element of Earth is the element that keeps all other elements in stasis in terms of fire, water, and wind. earth being the grounding and it's kind of the space that allows for physicality. On top of physicality itself, there is also the understanding that the space for physicality is also of significance. So there is space and matter. And there is that understanding, as well as the state of being in terms of physicality. So yes, we've explained that. And I just wanted to add that there before we move on to the next slide here, which you got a little sneak peek of, but oh well, Significance of words. I've sort of touched on it earlier. And I will add here that words are the basis of magic. Also, the occult meaning of prophecy. And if we understand prophecy is not just a prophet and speaking to us, it's deeper than that. And the occult meaning of prophecy, you see what's actually going on when people speak words. This is happening to us in the media. Prophecy. I'll give you an example. When people think that the Simpsons are really making predictions, let me tell you, they're not predictions. They are prophetic words. They are prophetic rituals. You see, they are announcing what they are going to do, and then they are doing it. That's integrity. See, I'm telling you, these people understand these laws. They're following the rules too. They are following the rules better than we are. Hence the situation that we are in. And if we have understanding, if we know ourselves, we would know as well. So that is the occult meaning of prophecy. And that's why words are so significant here. You see, you might not hear it anywhere else, but this is what I see. And prophecy, the late Latin prophetia, or prophetia, however we want to pronounce it, means one who speaks the will of the gods. There's a few definitions, but they are speaking the will and intents of the gods. It's not the one God. If we truly knew God, we'd know that He is all in one and one in all, and there is no trying to understand the true God. Even God has become a derogatory meaning to even try to attribute to the one. So going along with that understanding there, so prophecy plays a big role. And you see, when we have true integrity and we are unified of ourselves. You see, that's a thing as well. These people, these ancient psychologists, you want to call them the Illuminati, the elite. Not really the elite. They're not really the Illuminati. If we truly understand who they are and their nature. Although, you see, these people, they understand that. They understand these things. So, if we put the word and put an S before it, as you see here, iterated, we get the word sword, which is defense. See, words are all powerful. They truly are if we understand it. And if you see, as I see here, it is the principle of vibration plus mentalism. Also, polarity, because it goes both ways. A sword is double-edged. It swings both ways. So incorporating polarity as well. I should have incorporated that, but you see, that is the power of words. Self-sufficient and self-edified in that sense. As I just spoke, only as I spoke did I get that understanding that I should have incorporated polarity as a principle. Dynamic of words and their significance. So, a sword, incorporating the principle of vibration, mentalism, and polarity. And if we do not understand it as so, if we only understand words as just polarity with no will and true will incorporated with it, those are dead words. That's why it incorporates the various principles. And that is the difference between, let's say, a lowercase word and an uppercase word, with a W being either capitalized or not capitalized. And those are the understandings that those are the guidelines and basis. That is the basis of our understanding here. Okay, so I believe we are cutting out of the stream here. It's not looking good. If we could get some feedback from our single viewer here, that would be awesome. Now we've got one viewer. You see it says in red writing, the number 1. But anyways, feedback is always awesome. I'd like to know how the stream is coming out, entirely out of respect. Self-respect and respect for others, that is. I am going to stop the stream here momentarily, and we will be up. We will be up again soon, but hang in there. We are still live on the recording here, so you people on YouTube, your library, you're still with me. Although people watching live on Twitch, there's a bit of a technical issue here with my connection, so I'm just working on that. Bear with me. Only the second episode, and we've already got some minor technicalities, minor technical issues, but that is to be expected. And yeah, let's go along with it. Let's see how this goes. Okay. It's even just having just some slight problems just trying to load the stream. Okay. Something's definitely going on. I will just attempt to fix it. I'll do my best. Let me take care of some things here. So bear with me once more. Okay, going to attempt once more. Anyways, I will continue. Okay. So, like I said, directed word and will intent. That is the basis of the significance of words as well. Words with a will and intent are very magical, and when spoken properly, correctly, with the will, in alignment with not just your own subjective will, but the will of the universe and its aims and intents, which is always, like I said, if it's good for you, it's good for me. If it's good for me, it's good for you. So thinking along those lines, that is the uppercase will, that is also agape. And when we are in alignment with that, there is that power in words. There's also negative power in words, as we might come to learn and or might already understand, but yes, on to the next one. Integrity to words spoken. To speak your will, then do it. Like I said, that's the magic of it. And when we are integral to ourself and non-dualistic, there is no inner controversy and inner contradiction and no self-opposition. We are in power. We command forces of the universe. We command healing. We issue orders. You see, forces of the universe are already there, dormant and waiting for the etheric principle of the mind of men to issue it. And it is not out of a false masculine dominant approach, but it is incorporating heart-based knowledge and true care. And in that sense, all are in alignment. That is the all. That is the universe. That is the multiverse. All is in alignment, and we see miraculous things that we might not think is even possible. But you see, that's why we came here. And there is a whole lot more mystery to the world, and if we could come out of the programming and edify each other in these sense along these lines with these principles and axioms, not fundamentally flawed to our own detriment and self-affliction, but you see, if we can just come into alignment with who we truly are, you see, we can really do amazing things. We can truly go places. We can't wonder why do we have no help? Why aren't these celestial beings helping us? Why aren't these more highly intellectually advanced societies and entities and classes of beings, why aren't they doing anything? Well, in terms of morality, they're not responsible for us. We are responsible for us. They can guide us, they can influence us, they can have good intentions, but they're not going to do our work for us. So, we are the ones to do the work. We are the ones to get the ball rolling for ourselves. We truly want to bask in our own glory. If we want to go places, like explore the cosmos, explore realms of possibility and potentiality. Moving along. As above, so below. This is a principle here, incorporating the principle of correspondence, which would be the second principle of natural law, of the Hermetic Principles. Now, got something here, some notes. Now, this principle here would be, it would explain the difference between polarity and duality. Duality being the illusion that principles with seemingly diametrically opposed polarities are two completely different principles, but that is not the case if we truly understood the occult sciences. Considering that cold is absence of heat and dark is absence of light, and when we come to understand that, we would know that there is no such thing as cold and there is no such thing as darkness, but only light and only heat, only that which is hot. Understanding that the contrast between cold and hot is simply the varying degrees of heat. And when we understand that, where does hot begin and where does cold end? There is almost no beginning and end. And another understanding of that would be, consider music and the 12 notes. There are only 12 notes, and once you get past 12, you get to the, let's say, theoretically the 13th note, which actually just goes back to the first note. So in that sense, where does the scale begin and where does that end if it continuously goes back to the beginning in terms of correspondence and as above, so below? And if we understand that, we would come to the understanding of the mystery of the 3, 6, and 9, which Nikola Tesla speaks of. You hear many influential people speak of this 3, 6, and 9, Thoth and Hermes, many archetypes who seem to embody and personify this mystery of physicality and the multiverse and the true sciences. See the 3, 6, and 9 and correspondence. That which is above is like that which is below. If you can wrap your mind around this, it is speaking of just that there. So having said that, all things considered, it gets deeper, but again, this is preliminary and this is the groundwork, the ground level, which would allow all other ideologies or concepts or principles and contentions. It would allow for all of that to stand on its own 2 feet and sturdy, in a figurative sense, so to speak. So, like I said, it also incorporates the understanding of the holographic universe, somewhat in the area of the double slit experiment, as I have portrayed earlier here. Considering all of this can be derived from the axiom and of the principle of correspondence, and that is, as above, so below. That which is above is like that which is below. That is the heavens compared to the earth. That is the stars compared to man in terms of astrology, which we will be doing a great exploration of that as well. So keep along with the videos here. Like I said, we will be on YouTube, Library, which is a great platform. Didn't know what was going on there. A little bit blurry, but sorry about that. Anyways, I hope everybody will be keeping up here. Episode 1 was definitely a great learning experience just getting started here. I could say I've definitely learned a lot. Some unexpected things happen, but that's part of the fun. It's part of the growth. It's part of the experience, and I can only encourage everybody else out there listening to get up and do the real work as well, and just portray in your own way, in your own expression. You see, you yourself are a frequency and vibration, and your relation to speaking truth and your sole purpose here is just that, what you will make it to be, what's your will, higher case will, where you know your position, where you enter your calling and you're in alignment with your orlog, another more Norse concept that we will be exploring in great depth as well. I have somewhat of an enigmatic approach to it, somewhat of a paradoxical perception, but like I mentioned, we dissect the controversy and it is met with reconciliation and understanding, with the underpinning and overstanding that truth is singular. So, with that being said, as above, so below. And similar to that, the Hermetic Principle, or the axiom of the Hermetic Principle of correspondence, which is also as within, so without. That is the relationship of the inner world compared to the outer world. And, we've explained that, I think, in good detail. So with that being said, with these understandings, we can move along with our prerequisite knowledge, and our worldview and perception may be in more close alignment with truth. You see, truth, true objective morality and natural law, and all of these principles and dynamics, which we are bound to as humans, as subjective individuals. We are apart from that, although we come together, and it is our harmonization of that which will depict the balance of the inner world compared to the outer world in terms of as within, so without. So it's simple. The truth is simple. I know it might sound simple to some. Some of you might already understand this, but eventually, we will be getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And like I said, with the principle of correspondence, in terms of varying degrees of an aspect or a principle, where does it begin and where does it end? You see, we're going to be diving deeper and deeper into these aspects of reality and the universe and consciousness. It only gets deeper and deeper, and that should be all the more encouraging for others to really get out there, do the work, express in your own way and in your own modality your understanding of natural law and what you get from what I am presenting here with these podcasts, these shows, with the Serpent and Dove platform here. So, all the more edification and encouragement. And if we dissect let's look at the etymology and what makes up the word encourage. You see, we see the prefix on, and the word courage, and that just speaks all the more what I am speaking. Having true care and true courage, especially even in the face of fear, which is there significantly. It's there, it's not there for nothing. The lower self is not there for nothing, and Loki is just as important as all of the other gods or archetypes in terms of Norse mythology and archetypes and how they come together. So, we have fear, but we also have courage to sort of back up that fear. I mean, to compensate, to balance out, when we meet in the middle path is what it's all about, having this syncretic knowledge and syncretic ability to understand knowledge. So as above, so below. It's a good understanding. It's very crucial. And so that would be it. Goes over to the next one here, our thumbnail. Like I said, our show live every Saturday, 3 to 5 p.m. Mountain Time. We're only on episode 2 here, but we're already moving along. I think the world is definitely moving at a fast pace. We're definitely moving along at a fast pace here with the show. I mean, it feels like just on episode 2, but we're getting deeper and deeper into what I actually want to say. And like I said, if I actually said what I wanted to say, it's like putting a carriage in front of a horse and expecting anything to work as it should, which is insanity. Doesn't work, doesn't go that way. The carriage goes behind the horse, and that's logic. That's sort of the framework that we're doing here, well, that I'm doing here. So yeah, with that being said, I've just about finished the website. I've just about get it to the point where it is somewhat presentable, but why don't I give you guys just a little preview here of what I've got so far at serpentdovewisdom.com. Wisdom.com. Now, should be something here. I'm just trying to pull it up. I should have had it ready, I know, but oh well. Yeah, it's not coming up. It's not coming up anyways. Why don't I just do this here? It's not the actual website, but it's an outline of the website. We just add this here. Here's the website. That's the layout. Got our videos. Oops. Okay, this might have been what I was trying to show. Okay, this is the actual website here. That's what I was trying to achieve. Cool. So that's it there, the video section. Services. We have a variety of services. Now I'm just going to X out of that. That's enough of that. But I will mention I do have a variety of services. I will have upcoming rune readings, psychological readings. I will attest personally my testimony to having dealt with trauma, childhood trauma, having dealt with shamanic initiation in that regards, and doing the shadow work, so to speak, facing ourselves. And in regards to all of that, I will be teaching, having somewhat of a, it's like life coaching. It's definitely catered to the individual, incorporating occult frameworks, sciences, and practices, teachings, methods, and it's just the start. So it's building up to what I believe would be the peak potentiality of what I am setting up here, but I think it's pretty big in its own right so far. And what we will have, apart from that, in terms of services that I offer, let me sort of advertise my services on Fiverr with graphics design. I've got some very good experience. I took a course on udemy.com in graphics design, and I've did quite a bit of learning. So I've got some services offered. There's an area, there's a link on my website there, and when it is up and running and secure and well maintained, I will have, my profile on Fiverr. It's up and it's good, it's running, and you can reach me there at Serpent and Dove. That's my profile, and if you would like, I will design your company logo or your podcast logo, whatever entity that you have in mind. Take a look. I've got some examples, some work that I present on my website, so take a look. When it is up and running, I will have some updates. So I just wanted to put that out there, that I do have services. And yes, I do have just a little bit to go with the website. It's not in any condition, I believe, to be somewhat public, but yeah, like I say, any help is appreciated. I know not everybody knows how to code a website, but well, we all need help, right? We all sort of need each other in that sense. Personally, I like to try to be as independent as I can. But in this case, yeah. So I did have one other note here. Now, I did explain symbolism behind the serpent and dove logo. I've explained the serpent. I don't think I've explained the dove, but the saying, be as gentle as a dove and wise as serpents. That is to say that is the sacred divine masculine, the sacred masculine and feminine divine in their union. That is the self-defense principle. and the non-aggression principle. That is the viper or the rattlesnake that symbolizes self-defense. That is, no harm, but if you threaten me, I'm gonna hurt you. So that's what that means. These are multifaceted, multidimensional understandings and intentions that I have here with this sigil, if we will. And that's the serpent and the dove. They come together dynamically to embody as above, so below as well on another level, on another dimensional level. And you see here knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. That is the trivium. You see my website, Serpent of Wisdom. That's why I add wisdom at the end, because of just that. We have to take right action. So that's the symbolism of the serpent and dove logo. I was just trying to pull up a bigger bigger photo of it so I could show you guys here. So there we go. That's something a little bit bigger so that you could see their knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. And the oval shape of it is very significant as well. That is to signify the egg of the universe, the primordial womb, also the soul complex, which I would also like to get into. I don't have, it's a Norse concept. I don't have any illustrations or any notes whatsoever. I'm just speaking off the top of my mind here when I talk about the soul complex and the psychosomatic soul complex. But it's shaped like an oval, and it is my sigil here is intended to signify just that, and it's subtle influences. And I've got another note here. And now that we're on the topic of subtle influences, and that is that there's the understanding that the most powerful forces in the universe are the most subtle. If we understand them, if we understand the influence of media and all of these things, it entails just that. So I'll give another example. When we meditate and we breathe in through the nose, and they say breathe out through the mouth, because it is the most subtle force. But since the Earth's magnetic field, it operates on such a low frequency, 7.83 decibels, or amplitude or magnitude or frequency or hertz or however we want to see it. When we breathe out through our mouth, that very subtle force will harmonize with the Earth's magnetic field. And it is it's like a charge, and it's like a connection. It is a form of grounding, and that is why it is very powerful in sort of resetting the nervous system. That is to refresh the nervous system, so to speak. That is why meditation is very powerful, very essential, very significant. So Understanding that and subtle influences, subtle forces of the universe. There is also the other very subtle force of love, and the scientific equation to that would be the fluid around our heart that produces a vibration that synchronizes with the fluid in our brain. And this vibration, the harmonization between the two, resonate in a 200 or 100 and it was something to the degree of 100 feet to 150 feet radius of a toroidal field and energy. So that's the force of love, and it's a subtle force, but it is very radiant. It radiates, and it is empowering, and it's permeating. It is definitely adverse, and it's almost paradoxical to what we would think true power would be. It is the difference between feminine and masculine forces in terms of qigong. They say the feminine force is the most powerful. If I've heard masters say that if I wanted to really damage somebody, I'm gonna use the feminine force in terms of those arts and crafts. So it is the more subtle force, the more passive forces that are they go unnoticed, and that's why they are all the more powerful. And it is anybody who does not understand it, well, heck, they might just deserve such implications and circumstance due to not understanding the power and strength of these forces, and subtle forces, to be particular, to be specific. So, and I've also wanted to add here, these are just little notes that I've wanted to add that go on to make up the groundwork, and that is that truth is intrinsically connected to why we experience suffering. Now, I've explained solipsism and that erroneous ideology, and it entails just that. If we are in denial of truth in terms of solipsism, we will suffer as individuals, as species, and as a nation, as a public, as a republic. And like I said, whether or not we understand it, these are laws, these are principles, and it must be said that only law can go against law. Only law can outdo law. So that's what we are doing here. Laws of mentalism, laws of polarity in terms of compensation. So yes, with that being said, I've got a few more notes here. Let me pull it up. Another here, very similar to what I said about truth and solipsism, and that is, you see, we experience suffering in two ways only. One, by rejecting what is actually truth, being in denial, and or by accepting that which is not actually true. So it's a two-way attack here, which equates to what would seemingly be known as a whole truth, but let's say consider a circle and we cut it in half, and somebody convinced us that the shape of a circle is not as it is, but is inverted, with those two halves not facing each other but opposite to each other. That is, if I could show you, not like this, but like this. That's just a little bit difficult. If we can, it is just like that. You see, somebody has convinced you that a circle is not a circle, and that it is actually shaped like so. You know, if you can wrap your mind around it, that's the way I see it. The obfuscation of truth. And when we understand the obfuscation of truth, how deception is based off of truth and revolves around truth and uses truth to confuse, using tactics of deception known as pardoning. You see, you might not hear that much place else, because even that the understanding of these things are obfuscated as well. You know, go figure. But which entails the use, pardoning, which entails the use of nuggets of truth to attract, but with lies and deceptions surrounding the truth in context. On a deeper level, this would signify the principle that fear and deception are an illusion. Fear and deception are an illusion. And I'll explain that here. Truth is so powerful. Like I said, these people who are in this spiritual war, in this big game of chess, are playing by the rules. They're using truth against us. And we are the ones holding up this system in self-affliction and self-loathing, because we lack self-respect and self-love. Like I said, with the formative years, this can be reduced to trauma and childhood development, and these are principles of masculine and feminine. When it comes down to it, it's the principle of gender that is used against us, because we don't understand it, because we don't know ourselves, and we don't know our enemy. And that's the position that we are in. But you see, that's what we're trying to turn around here. That's what we are trying to flip. And, one by one mind at a time. I've started, and I've only fixed myself, and I've only done the work for myself. But with that being said, that is how powerful truth is. That is what's used against us. Those are the dynamics. And it was an attack on the family dynamic. Like I said, the father and the mother, it's masculine and feminine. It's the principle of gender. It's these dynamics that are used against us. And when we reject truth and accept lies, it is just that. It is duality. We are dualistic by nature. And no, that is to say that we've made our nature dualistic. Like I say, human nature is neither good nor bad. But people make it both, and that is the inner contradiction that results in suffering and solipsism. Or vice versa. The saying, what came first, the chicken or the egg? I'm not sure if semantic games are going to get us anywhere running in circles. The idea is that crap is crap, and we cannot placate it, and that we got to see it for what it is. We got to see us for who we are, and we've got to do the real work. We've got to do the shadow work on an individual level, and we've got to look at what we just don't want to look at. That's denial that results in trauma. I've explained this in my past presentation on trauma healing. That's a very good one. I lay out some good examples, some good info. Some things I did not understand before my learnings and studies in trauma and psychology, but does the populace understand these things? And if they do, are they teaching everybody? Are they teaching people? And that's the moral obligation as well. There's not enough people that understand these things, and that's the reason why we are in the position that we are in. And if we fail to realize that, all the more subjective suffering and self-affliction. Like I said, if you walk off a bridge, if you walk off a cliff, you're gonna fall, and it doesn't matter who you are. Laws will enact as they do, and we will not taste freedom as we would like to taste it if we continue to be dormant and passive and inactive and tolerant to tyranny and evil. So, that was a great show. We're coming up to the last 15 minutes here. I think our next show is going to be another great one. We've touched on a lot of great things here. Something I want to mention about subconsciousness, habits, and learning, and how to learn, and a little fact about the human mind. And it has to do with the significant number of 13. And that is that to truly learn, we've got to almost process it 13 times, and that's a fact of psychology. And if we want to develop that habit, that subconscious habit, 13 is the number to repeat to ourselves if we truly want to learn it. Go over it 13 times. And what did we talk about here with the principle of correspondence, as above, so below? I spoke about music and the 12 notes. What happens when we go to the 13th note? Well, we start over. We go back to the first note. The 3 becomes the 6, and the 6 becomes the 9, if that makes sense. The 3 is the 6, and the 6 is the 9. The 13 is the 1. And that's why 13 is pegged to be an unlucky number. You see, they try to occult this number, but no, it's a very significant number. Really, truly. So, it is also it also has correspondence with Christ consciousness, the 12 disciples and Christ being the 13th. And, having that syncretic knowledge as well. That is why it is good to incorporate the concept of syncretism in our learnings and findings, because we can learn to make these correspondences, and they will almost line up together so in such an awesome fashion that it's mind-blowing, and it is just that. So syncretism, that will be another endeavor here on the Serpent and Dove Network, the podcast here. So stay tuned. We're going to have a lot of good shows, a lot of awesome content coming up, and yeah, like I said, it's very awesome. It's doing the real work, doing what I came here to do, and I feel like Nothing is more important than this if we want to taste happiness and freedom and true joy. True joy. So I believe I had one more note here. I believe I've got a little bit more. And that is that the very self-same principles and laws which have allowed for the enslavement of mankind will be the very same principles and laws that shall allow for us to undo the situation. Let me repeat that. The very self-same principles and laws which have allowed for the enslavement of mankind will be the very same principles and laws that shall allow for us to undo the situation. Like I said, these ancient psychologists are playing by the rules. It's how they're able to do it because they are unified amongst themselves, and that they have deployed tactics of divide and conquer. And it is us as a society, as a nation, and as a race who have bought into the dialectics and who believe that we are truly divided and conquered. Now, that is to say, to undo the situation, that slavery will not be so. We must say, slavery will not be so. We're not going to stand for it. To the same degree that these oppressors and suppressors and democide agents have enacted, to the self-same degree they have spoken. Watch their movies with an open mind, and I tell you, you will get the message loud and clear if you are able to empty your cup. And you will come to understand that they have been pumping out deep esoteric ciphers. And it's for many reasons. One is the spirit of prophecy, that they're going to announce what they're going to do before they do it for a magical means. And two is because they have to. They have to announce what they are going to do. That is a contract. They have contracted with the universe that they will do that. And three, you see, I forget, I might have already spoken it and not noticed, but those are you see, it's many reasons why they do that. The spirit of prophecy, and where was I here? So yes, they understand these things with respects to laws of mentalism and how the mind works and how the universe works and our relation to these universal dynamics and principles and how it all comes together. So, first principles first. That's what this is all about. That's what it's always been about. Thank you to our viewer who's been watching here. I know the numbers will grow. We're going to continue to manifest that. I know people need to hear this as very valuable information. I hope to influence and inspire many, just as I have been influenced and inspired and encouraged by the giants whose shoulders I stand on. You see, my work here, I don't claim any ownership over it, but you see, it's because neither do the people I learn from, who are the giants that I stand on, who also stand on giants. And that is to say that we edify each other. That is true humility. That is raising each other up. You see, there's nothing new under the sun. All this that I have told you existed inherently in nature and the objective reality field beforehand. And we, as subjective individuals, are only approaching it and perceiving it and processing it and fathoming it only according to the capacity that we choose, according to our hierarchy of knowledge, our hierarchy and definitions of words. Very important, like I said. And it is up to us and the etheric principle that we want to enact upon ourselves in regards to how we want to gauge our reality and our worldview, our perspective, our perception. So understanding all of this, we want to be in alignment. And yes, so I do appreciate questions. I do enjoy interacting with the audience. And like I said, I want to see a community just thrive and grow build each other up, through this edification, the way truth is self-sufficient, and we must be self-sufficient in that regard as well, and not so hierarchical, not so segmented. You see, we're in the position we are in because they are unified and we are not. So now we need to unify ourselves. We need to be in alignment with who we are as individuals, and on a larger scale with each other in the larger aggregate, so that there is that hierarchy of priority in terms of what's the foundation and what are we trying to uphold, what are we trying to inoculate here, what are we trying to erect and build, and what is the house of liberty, the true house of liberty that we want to live in. So thanks again for watching. This has been another great show. I can attest that personally I am learning a lot as I go along. You see, there is an aspect of synchro mysticism when it comes to these shows that I do here. I do synchro mysticism being a dynamic that I kind of just, I have a few scripts lined up. I've got the slides ready. I've got a few notes, but in my head, I'm operating on a spirit, and I'm not thinking too much about it. I am definitely more intuitively and creatively working through it, which I am very comfortable with. It does have the price of having to build that up and hone that within yourself, but it does not go without good pay and good consequence. So that's kind of what you see here with Serpent and Dove, and the structure of the show that I take, the trajectory and my approach to employing truth and distributing this knowledge here, which I cannot just sit on. I cannot just sit on this knowledge. That would be a logical fallacy, immoral. So thanks again for watching, and that will be all. We've come up to the last hour of the last minute, and hopefully in the future we will have more questions and more answers. So see you next time.